So one of the most common problems I see people run into when it comes to their home security is they just don't know where to start. Maybe they've had some kind of issue pop up with their home security, some kind of threat, and they just don't know where to begin. I get that. Today, you and I are going to dynamite this little roadblock, and we're going to shortcut you straight to step one of a properly strategic home security plan. Okay. Now, if you're one of the people that firmly believe that step one is always security camera system, I would kindly invite you to click away from this video, stop watching, go find yourself one of the 7.9 million videos on YouTube that are about home security cameras. Go watch that. However, if you're open-minded, stick around. I'm going to make my case why I believe that securing your doors is always job number one when you're starting to think about your home security. Let's get into it. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Jake, and if you head over to www.homesecurity.coach, that's me. And you're going to find there, I've actually created a one-page cheat sheet on this exact topic that you can get for free. It is, well, I'll tell you more about it in a few minutes, but suffice to say, you need it. It's a good review, good check-in for you. Now, on this topic, I want to cover off three things, okay? So first, I want to talk about layers of security. Second, I want to talk about what the problem is with your doors as they are now. And then third, I want to talk about what the solution is for them, okay? So thing number one, layers. If you're thinking that there's going to be one security enhancement or feature that's going to save the day and create peace and tranquility for your family at home, it's not going to happen, okay? This is a little bit common sense, but a little bit wisdom principle as well. You need to have layers of security because any single point can fail and then it's failed. See, you need to have redundancy built in, and we do that in home security or any sort of security for that matter in layers. And it just so happens that a very good model for this comes from the US military. They've outlined this in field manual documents going back years, but we're talking about 3 layers, and I'll put a little graphic up here to show you. We're talking about your physical security, which is the basically walls of your house. So that includes all the doors and the windows. That's your physical layer of security. Outside that, you got your exterior. So that's outside the walls of your house all the way out to the perimeter of your property, the exterior there. And then your perimeter is that 3rd layer. So you can overcomplicate it. You can throw in all these different dynamics. I think it's better to just go simple and go 3 layers: physical, exterior, perimeter. When we're looking at where to start on this, we always start on the inside out. Reason being, you want, like I said before, denying access to your house is job number one. You want to keep the bad guys out. You want to keep your family safe inside. So if you can't deny access from someone getting into your house, you're vulnerable, okay? That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have every single door and window and crevice and tiny little nook and cranny covered with impenetrable force field. It just means that you need to do a good job on the most likely, most logical, statistically, most common points of entry, and those are the doors. Doors are made for humans to be able to go through. And guess what? That's where bad guys are going to start, okay? That's not to say they couldn't go through a window, but they're going to start with a door, typically. There's always exceptions, but we're not talking about exceptions. We're talking about the rule, okay? And the rule here is you need to deny access at your main points of entry, which are your doors. Hopefully, you haven't got too many doors in your property. If you've only got 2 or 3, sweet. It's going to make it a simple job for you. And you want to start at that front door because that's where you're going to receive your visitors, okay? So that's kind of how that breaks down. Physical security, think about this, for thousands of years has been the primary means of securing a house or a castle or whatever it is. You know, we didn't have security cameras then anyway. I'm just picking on security cameras a little bit because people tend to just go straight to that. But physical security is job number one, okay? You want to keep the bad guys on the outside, keep your family safe inside. So we need to do that in layers. Your physical layer of security is always where you need to start, because if you do some work in the other layers and you can deter and detect people in the exterior or perimeter layer, great. But if they come through there, they can just make their way into the house because you haven't looked after that physical security and you can't deny access. Am I beating this to death? I feel like I'm beating this to death, okay? That's point number one. You need to do it in layers. Now, what we're going to talk about next is your actual door, okay? So what is the problem with your, let's talk about your front door, okay? If you've got a solid timber wooden front door, maybe with some cool fixed panels of glass in it, or maybe it's just a plain solid timber door, that's good, but these, typically swing inward, and you've got hinges on one side of the door, and on the other side of the door you've got some lock hardware, which is your faceplate, and a couple of other bits of hardware there that typically are held in with some screws, which may not necessarily be very aggressive, deep screws. So doors are kickable. Like, this is kind of obvious. We've seen this in movies. Um, Doors are kickable. So if you're just relying on your front single hinge timber door at the front of your house, you'd have to have some pretty robust hardware and reinforcement in there to prevent it from being easily kickable. Okay. You can actually do that, and I do recommend it, and it does help. And actually, in the diagram, the flow chart that I'm going to tell you more about in a minute, I'm going to give you some advice on how to do that, because I think that has its place. And I'll talk more about that. I'm being a little bit cagey, but that's the problem. So your solid door is kickable. Now, if we're talking about, you've got a French set of doors on there, so two hinge doors that swing inward. I've been to homes where they've just been kicked in. Those are even more kickable than a single hinge door. Not that I've personally done it myself, but this is just from what I've seen from experience. Those French doors, you need to do something on those, because if you got French timber hinge doors as your front entry, oof, like, yeah, they can be forced open without too much trouble, just in my experience. If you've got a screen door, good. If you've got a decent security screen door on there, great. Like, that's the direction you need to be going in. Even if you do have a security screen door on there, depending on what quality security screen it is, it's still maybe easily defeatable, and then they're just going to kick that solid timber door open. So, and by the way, we're talking about, yes, your front door, but this same principle applies to your back hinge door, could apply to the door on the side of the, or back of the garage, anywhere there's a hinge door. We'll also address sliding doors, by the way, but a crappy screen, which is inferior quality, is not going to offer you that much security where it comes to preventing someone from just forcing entry there. Single locking screen doors, which just have that central lock, those can be folded. If the whole thing's made out of aluminum can be ripped apart, cut. It's a very soft metal, relatively speaking. So they're vulnerable that way. Sometimes they've got that like fly screen, and if you haven't actually key locked the screen door from the inside, they could just cut a hole in the fly screen, reach through, flick the snib across on the inside of the door, and then just open the thing. So there's a lot of vulnerabilities on sort of like a second rate, second class, second tier, whatever, security screen door. And I've seen a lot of them compromised in the ways I'm telling you about now. What else to talk about? Yeah, so fixed panel. So going to the sliding door thing in a minute. So changing from hinge doors to sliding doors. Some homes, just because of the layout, the design, you've got a sliding door as your main point of entry for various reasons. Hopefully you've got a decent triple locking security screen on there as well. That's well designed, it's well put together, and it's well installed. Even if you get all that right, there's still on any sliding door a massive fixed panel of glass right next to it, which is probably the biggest target in your whole house in terms of if somebody wanted to get in, just smash their way through that. There are things that you can do on there. Sometimes people put security mesh over that, but probably a better way to do it is just with security film. A security film product is a good thing to put there. All this goes to say that your doors generally are quite vulnerable, and they're the most likely point of attack for you if someone's going to try to get into your house. So that's where you need to focus your energy, because there's a lot of problems on making that door secure unless you get it right. Getting a real proper, like high strength security screen door is a big deal. In Australia, we've got a brand called CrimSafe, which they have got probably arguably the best design on how you can build a security screen door. They export this, I think, internationally, but this is one that personally I think is probably one of the best designs that could be designed. And then, yeah, for that fixed panel of glass, you need to look for some serious security film as well. Now, that sort of leads into my third point, which is basically on the solution. So we talked about the layers, sort of the reason why we're talking about this. We talked about the problems with your current door, and now I just want to touch on the solution. So the CrimSafe thing that I was just talking about, or whatever equivalent, if you don't live in Australia or if you don't have access to a product like this one, you need if it's a hinge door, it's got to be a triple locking door that ideally has the mesh, the grill of the door is fashioned securely and mechanically into that frame. It's well installed, and the timber door frame it's attached into, is fastened into, is still pretty robust. So you don't want to, have a great door that's installed into pretty poor quality wood or timber in the frame. where they could just basically pull the door out. It's a problem, obviously. But if you get this right, you can really create a barrier, a real strong barrier between bad guys and yourself. So even if they do come onto your property, they come to your door, if you've got that door locked and you've used it properly, they're probably not going to get in without some tremendous force, which may take time and create a lot of noise to be able to get in. Okay. This gives you pretty much total access control on that door of your house that you've done this. And ideally, if you can do this on all your accessible points of entry in the ground floor, you're looking pretty good, because then you can even get breeze going through the house. You start to create some lifestyle benefits there, and the people that live in the house can leave the hinge door, sliding door, whatever it happens to be, open, get the breeze through and enjoy. And then they don't have to worry about unexpected visitors coming to the door, because they can still have a conversation with whoever that is and be on the other side of that barrier. So you can start to get a sense for why this is so important. So no matter whatever sort of techie systems you got around the house that are going to alert you to the presence of someone, that someone is going to come right on inside if you haven't done anything about this physical security to start with. Okay, so hopefully that's I think a fairly strong case for it. So just to wrap up, you need to rely on layers, not a single point. And that first layer that you start with always has to be that middle one. Sorry, not the middle one. The first one is the physical security on your house, then the middle one, the exterior, and then the perimeter. Okay. The problems we talked about and described with the hinge doors and sliding doors and the various sort of shades of security that you can have on that. And then the solution, which is almost always to have a really good, proper security screen on there. And if it's appropriate, maybe some security film around that. So that's what we're talking about there. I don't want you to get confused or distracted by all the techie, shiny objects, okay? Make sure that your doors have been done as well as they possibly can. There's even more that you can talk about from here with detection, like if you can't do a proper security screen yet just because of affordability, because these security screens can be more expensive, do contact sensors or something that's going to start screaming as soon as that person comes in. If it's a middle of the night sort of thing, that'll be a deterrent as well. Anyway, if a security screen like this or whatever I've described, if that's not in the budget, you need to save for that. And until then, there's, as I mentioned, a range of things that you can do to make it more secure. And I have put together a one-page, basically, infographic flowchart for you that describes for a hinge door and a sliding door, starting from no security, working your way all the way down to like full strength security on that entry there. And there's a couple of steps in between that'll definitely benefit your home security on the way to, improving to a full strength point of entry there. So hopefully this simplifies things for you. I hope I made a good enough case where you're now considering getting your doors totally squared away. You should. Your family's worth it, okay? I welcome your questions or comments on this thing. I'm interested to see what you have to say on this one. If there's something that you have a question on, or if you need some help in this area, just reach out. I'm easy to get in touch with. It's just jake@homesecurity.coach. Gonna leave it there, and I'll see you in the next one.